All right, let's jump right in with a really provocative idea from our source material, the fake teacher pandemic. What if the very people we trust to teach us are actually the ones holding us back from ever being financially successful?
So that leads us to this really direct, kind of uncomfortable question. Is your teacher, the person you trust for knowledge, actually keeping you broke? It's a huge claim, I know. So let's unpack the thinking behind it.
So let's start with the problem itself. The whole argument here is that we really need to take a long, hard look at who's teaching us and ask if their advice is actually grounded in any real-world experience. So what are we even talking about when we say fake teacher? Well, according to this perspective, it's pretty simple. It's someone who teaches a subject that they don't actually do. They're like a coach who's never, ever played the game. And this is where it gets really concrete. The source material points to some pretty common examples. Think about it. An entrepreneurship professor who has never actually launched a business. Or an accounting teacher who's never had to manage the books for a real live company. They're giving advice from the sidelines, not from down in the trenches. It's all theory, no practice.
Okay, so what's the big deal? What's the actual damage here? Well, the core argument is that this style of education doesn't just fail to help you, it actually actively trains you for a life of financial struggle.
And there's this quote from the source material that just, wow, it hits hard. The idea is that you're paying for a system that basically locks you into a cycle of just getting by, instead of teaching you how to build real, lasting wealth. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. It's a total clash of mindsets. School teaches us that making a mistake is basically the worst thing you can do. But in the real world, especially in business, mistakes are everything. They're how you learn. The source calls it failing forward. It's a huge shift from just memorizing answers to actually solving brand new problems. And here's the really crucial point, right? That whole play it safe mentality that gets you an A+ in school, well, in today's fast-moving world, it's a massive liability. In the information age, you have to adapt and take risks. Playing it safe is the riskiest thing you can do. And all this training, it funnels you into one specific way of thinking. The mindset of an employee. And this mindset teaches you to work your whole life for things that, according to the source, will never actually build you any wealth. Now, to really get this, you have to understand a core concept they talk about: fake money. And look, this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's just basic economics. It's talking about government-printed currency, which because of inflation is constantly losing its value, its purchasing power. It just slowly eats away at your savings and your paycheck. Okay, look at this comparison. This is where you can see the two worlds just completely split apart. A fake teacher tells you your house is an asset, but a real teacher, they point out that until that mortgage is paid off, it's really the bank's asset. It's a liability that's taking money out of your pocket every month. The focus shifts from your report card to your financial statement. That's the real report card in the adult world. And this just says it all, doesn't it? When you go to a bank to get serious capital, to build something real, they're not going to ask about your GPA. They don't care about the A you got in economics class. They want to see one thing: your financial statement, the real-world numbers. Okay, so that's the problem. It sounds pretty bleak, I know, but what's the solution? Well, it's about making a huge shift in who you decide to learn from. It's about finding mentors who are actually in the game. And I just love this analogy from the source material. It's so simple, but so powerful. I mean, you would never want to learn how to fly a plane from someone who's only ever read books about it, right? No way. You want an instructor who's logged thousands of hours in the cockpit. And the same exact principle applies to money and business. So what's their secret? What do these real teachers actually understand that most people don't? Well, they get the real rules of money. Not just how to earn a paycheck, but how to control cash flow, how to actually use debt as a tool to buy assets, and then how to use those assets to legally and efficiently slash your taxes. That's the real curriculum. Which brings us to the final, most important part, the what do I do now part. How do you actually apply all this stuff? How do you make that leap from being a spectator in the economy to being a real player? And the path forward is actually pretty straightforward, broken down into these 4 steps. First, you got to reclaim what the source calls your thought engine, your mindset. Then you go out and actively find those mentors who are doing what you want to do. You learn to speak their language, which means mastering the financial statement. And finally, you take action. You start moving into the asset column, buying things that put money in your pocket.
So really, the call to action here is huge. It's a challenge to stop being a church mouse, timidly looking for job security and a steady paycheck. It's about starting to think bigger. It's about building a legacy.
And that leaves us with one last big question. A question you really have to ask yourself. Every single day, with every dollar you earn and every dollar you spend, you are building an asset empire. The only question is it yours? Or are you just a worker in someone else's?